KTTV, is that right?
What it do, KTTV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with the first episode of Wellness Wednesday on season 6, and I couldn't do it no other way than very big on this first season by bringing in speaker, trainer, Mrs. Joye Jackson from Speaking of Joy. How you doing today, Ms. Joy?
I am doing really, really well, Kendrick. Thank you so very much.
Look, I want to say thank you for taking some time out of the busy schedule. I know things are taking off. You have been, so thank you for taking some time out tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to it for quite some time. So I am so ready to talk about this.
We are here. Yeah. So as we jump into things, I like to do just a wellness check because we know it's been crazy out here. So how have you been doing? How have you been staying safe and all that good stuff?
I have been doing really well. I always say complaining doesn't do anything, so there's no need to complain about it. I am grateful that I'm able to send my children to camp. I've had them at home with me. I've had the pleasure of being a first grade teacher. Hats off to all you educators, because listen, the Lord didn't call me to that. Yes. But so I have been doing really well. I am grateful that I feel like we're turning the corner a little bit in this pandemic thing, kind of. So made it to Wednesday, 2 days from Friday. And
it's been crazy. So like you say, celebrate the small things. So
absolutely.
We did make it
we
to
made
Wednesday.
It Monday and Tuesday, so we're here Wednesday. That's enough to be grateful.
Man, so just thinking about this pandemic and getting into things. Back up May 2020. Yes, now, we know things got started, February, March, when it got crazy. And so here we go with the drama, May 2020.
May 2020. So I had been in my company 6 years, and I started as a training manager and really matriculated from training manager to project manager to VP of strategy and programs to chief strategy officer. So good 6-figure salary, insurance for my family, corner office, all things were well. But the good thing is I'm a child of God, so He prepared me for this moment. So I thought that I was going to be let go in August.
Okay.
So a little premature than what I thought, but I was, my uncle used to always say shocked, but not surprised. So got the information that they were doing a reduction in force and my role was going to be eliminated. And so I was like, okay. They, gave me a nice package. So you kind of be like, okay, well, I'll go. Don't worry. I'll go. So May 2020, I left and was preparing to look for another job only because I knew this was coming, but I wasn't quite ready. So May lost the job. And for years, I've always wanted to do what I'm doing now, but I never would have done it had I not been forced out the door. So it took about a month to really decide. I'll say this, to get the courage to step out and do it. So it took me about a month. I started writing, started really praying and asking God, started looking for jobs because I still wasn't 100% sold that Speaking of Joy was the route I was going to take. So I started looking for jobs and I was overqualified. It was a pandemic, so people weren't hiring. And so I had to really accept the fact that I was going to be unemployed. Yeah. So I said, well, Lord, if I'm going to be unemployed, I may as well do something with this time. And so I started working on Speaking of Joy. I started working on what is now what it is. So it was a blessing because ultimately I never would have. That was a company that I thought I would retire from.
Okay.
So I never would have started this had I not been pushed out the door.
Yeah. And that's sometimes, like they say, you got to get a little uncomfortable.
Lord.
To change some things. So that's what happens.
A lot. Uncomfortable is I'm going to go for this promotion. Real uncomfortable is I ain't going to work tomorrow. What are we going to do? So
that reminds me of when I first started the podcast. A friend of mine was an English teacher, and so he started to be a realtor. And so he said, man, it got real ugly. Like he said, Christmas came around, and he said, I didn't have anything. And then he said, I got my first sale. And he said it was been going from there, but it was only at that uncomfortable time that he shipped everything into gear.
Absolutely.
So Man, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, from that, give us the background on Speaking of Joy and what all do you offer?
Okay. So Speaking of Joy is a 3-part business. So I have 3 areas that I focus on. One is coaching, which is really my heart's work. And I coach mostly women who are like me in transition. And in transition, I don't necessarily mean you're moving from place to place, but you're a woman who recognizes there's something bigger in me, something greater in me. Because I'll tell you my story more, but that's who I was. I knew that I could retire from that company, do well, have a good life, but it didn't fulfill me. So my motto for women that I coach is you're full, but not fulfilled. You like what you do. It's not a problem. But if you had the opportunity or the guidance or the direction, you would move into a different area. So that's one area, coaching. I do a lot of workshops and facilitation because I have 18 years experience in training and development. Okay. So my background is adult education and training. I've done every training role you could think of in a training department. So I spent a lot of time doing workshop facilitation and coaching. And then I do keynotes. So people hire me, I come in, I get you fired up. I do retreats, those types of things. So Speaking of Joy is 3 arms, but ultimately my purpose is to transform lives. What I believe is that as Speaking of Joy, my goal is to make people better. And so if you've encountered me in any way, my prayer is that when you leave me or have read something I've done or attended a workshop, that you desire to be better. And so Speaking of Joy's mission is really to just pour into people so that they can live the life that they want to live in a state where they feel better.
Man, and when you think about that, all about helping people. So awesome work that you're doing. So thinking about going back to the decision to even get all this going. Oh, you said you was preparing to get that job. At what point did it say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna hold off on the job and I'm gonna do this?
Let me tell you, it wasn't until all the doors closed.
Okay.
I still wasn't 100% sold on myself. And part of the reason that I think most of us never get to where we want to go is because we never really bet on ourselves. So for me, comfortable was a job. Now, I will tell anybody in the heartbeat, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Listen, that was like, I don't have an entrepreneur bone in my body. Now, I want to be in a box, but I want to color outside the lines. But I'm comfortable with organization and structure. I call myself like the safety police. I believe in safety. So this was the most unsafe place I have ever been. So I was not ready to be anywhere without a net. Now I have a wonderful husband who was like, I believe in you. And it doesn't matter how many people believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. So for me, I was still applying for jobs because I was like, okay, how we're gonna go from a 2-income household to a 1-income household. I was carrying our family on insurance. So I had never looked up insurance. My husband's insurance is way too high. So I was just in a place of just out of my depth because I like control and I like structure. So I didn't intend to start Speaking of Joy. I didn't even have a name for it. I just was like, okay, we're going to get out here. We're going to make some stuff shake. I had no business plan. I had no mission. I had nothing. Now, I taught people how to do this, but I didn't have it for myself because this was never my intention. So I literally started applying for jobs. And it wasn't until the door started closing that my husband was like, why don't you take a moment and do what it is you want to do? So I had to soul search because I didn't even know what it was because I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. So I was like, I don't know what I want to do because I've been working for 25 years. What else do you do? So I just sat and prayed and was like, God, if this is your will, just help me to figure it out. And so what came out of that was these articles that I wrote, the 5 R's to Repair the Weary. And that was the launch of Speaking of Joy. It took me probably 2 months to figure out a name. I was Joy Jackson. I was Joy Speaks. I had a whole lot. And then as I started writing and realizing that the power of words and how they can transform people's lives, that's how I came up with Speaking of Joy.
Man. And then not only did you empower, as I tell people every time I interview, it's all about that empathy, right? Yeah. What did you go through to be able to say, you know how I feel versus you done read some books. And so, just going through that and then thinking about your work with women. Me, 72% female viewership. I'm an elementary principal, so we know women is everywhere. So the work that you're doing with women, I just want to touch on that to just really help them understand like what you offer as far as in that arena.
So let me tell you, women, we are beautiful and unique creatures. Let's clap it up for the women. We are beautifully unique. But most of us, I find, the women that I work with, we find ourselves trying to be so many things. And we don't have a safe place for us. Now we have a spouse or a significant other or family that is our safe place, but we've so many times we've not been allowed to dream anymore. Like because we are raising a family, or because we've had to be a mother, sometimes mother and father. Sometimes we've had all of these goals that we want to achieve, but we've been doing something so long, we don't know how to get started. And so what I really do is I want women to take that power back, that power where you say, you know what, I can do this. And I can do this not because I'm following these people who have been doing this forever. And they're like, oh my God, buy this book, do this, do this. I literally work one-on-one or in a small group coaching setting with women. And my goal is to create opportunities. So I share all my networks. I share all my tools, my resources. What I do, I love to design. So I create programs that are specific to the women that I work with. Yes. So I literally I have 2 sessions where I don't even charge because I want to know more about you so that I tell people I'm like your tailored suit. I want a program that fits you. So we sit down and we talk about fears, because that's one of the biggest things that I had to overcome was fears. And then I'm talking imposter syndrome. I'm talking fear of failure. I'm talking fear of making mistakes. I'm talking fear of rejection, all the things that we experience growing up and the situations we've had in our lives. So we talk about that. We talk about negative thoughts, because sometimes we are bound and held hostage by our thoughts. And then we talk about what your plan is. So when you finish working with me, you have a 90-day strategic plan that if you implement, we've already overcome some of those other challenges that you've had, that now you have a roadmap to take you to the next level. So that's what I commit to anybody that I work with is, and I'm gonna be your cheerleader. I'm gonna walk with you, because I got people walking with me to help me to get to what I want to do. So my goal now is to give that back to other women and say, hey, we can do this. Let me walk with you. Let me share let me show you my failures. Let me show you my scars, the things that I did absolutely wrong that you don't need to do. And then I teach women balance, because so many times we get caught up in our children and our significant others and in church, in jobs, that we forget about ourselves. So I really encourage women to find moments where you can really be, true to yourself.
Yeah.
So man, that's
so awesome. Yeah, that's it. And still, even inside of all that coaching with the women, is still Christian based.
Absolutely.
Right. And so then how do you tie that all in? And have you had any pushback from?
That's a good question. So let me tell you, when I started, speaking of Joy, it was not Christian based. I had come out of corporate America. So I was walking the corporate line. So in corporate, you can't say Jesus, right? You can't pray. You can't. You can't. Yeah. So I have been so corporate minded that at first, speaking of Joy, was a corporate company. So I was doing workshops and training, but my heart's desire was to teach people Christian values, because I'm a preacher's kid, born and raised in the church. Sunday school, church, BTU. I was on a drill team, the National Baptist Youth Convention, learned all those scriptures for 350. So I did all of that. And God is truly the author and finisher of my faith, the head of my life. He's absolutely everything. And so what I started to find out was, as I would talk, it would just, because what's in you comes out of you. So as I would talk to people, the word would come out, the scriptures would come out, the spirit would come out. And I know, and I believe by faith that, the words that I say are anointed. And I'll tell you a story about that. That's really funny. And so when I realized that, I realized I can't apologize for who I am. I can't apologize for being Joy. I can't apologize for short hair. I can't apologize for glasses. So why would I apologize for my spirit walk? And so now, because I walk in the authority of Christ, I'm okay with a platform where I say Jesus, 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 as many times as I want to. And what I realize is people who don't gravitate to it, they won't. Yeah. And I also believe that God will call the people to me who need to be with me. So there are people who are waiting on me to help transform their lives. So instead of me trying to win all of them, I'm going to win the people that God has sent me to, and the God that God is created for. So I do get people who start watching my show and then we say Jesus and they turn it off. And I hope that, and then I realized in the pandemic, church is not what it used to be. So now it's really how we live our lives. It's how we encourage people. Some people will never, ever step into a church. Yeah. So now it's about my life. It's about how I live. So my platform is my pulpit.
Yeah, that's it. It's all about what you're doing. People watching.
They are. Oh Lord,
yeah.
Yes, they
That
are.
is
Yes,
awesome.
yes. People who you don't even know are watching.
That's it. That's it. Even when they don't like it, they watch.
That's it. They watch even more. The people who don't like it are the ones who watch.
So with the imposter syndrome,
yeah,
just thinking about that, I had a friend of mine who just did almost a symposium or something on it on Clubhouse, I think. So just touching on that and thinking about the services, a lady comes in. First off, can you tell the audience what is it, and then let's say what would be something you would tell her to start, where to start.
Okay. So if she's dealing with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So first, we're gonna have a conversation. I'm gonna share my story because I have it too. I mean, I think to some degree we all are shocked by where we are.
Yeah.
So it's easy to hear the thoughts in your head that you didn't work for it, you didn't deserve it. So what I do is I first tell her, hey, listen, let's write down all your negative thoughts, put them on paper. Now, I want you to take an opportunity where that negative thought or that thing that the imposter syndrome is telling you, that you now look at that and say, okay, so I felt this way, or this was something that came in my head, but write an opportunity where you know that was not true. So you're gonna write the lie and then you're gonna write the truth. So if it's I'm not qualified, so then I say write your qualifications. Or, I don't deserve to be in this role. Write the work that you've done to get in this role. So I really combat that with the truth, because a lot of times the imposter syndrome it's real, but it's nothing more than inferiority. And it's really, I believe, the way that the enemy keeps us bound. If he can keep you thinking that you're not where you need to be, then he can keep you from helping others. He can keep you from growing. If he can keep telling you you're worthless, you're not supposed to be there, look, how did you get here? And keep you focused on other people who are, you think, better qualified, or you feel like you're not where you're where you're supposed to be, but you didn't earn it or you didn't get it. Because let's be honest, some of us earned it, some of it was just favor. Let's be honest. I was at a job where I got promoted 4 times, and let me tell you, it was the favor of God, because I had never been a project manager. And they came and slid project manager across and was like, can you do this? I went and took the PMP, did all of the classes and everything. But it was the favor of God, because God won't anoint you to a position that you're not qualified to do. And I tell women that all the time. We spend a lot of time like, I don't deserve this. No, you do. God would not have placed you in that position. And you may not know everything, because let's be clear, you don't know everything about being an assistant principal. You learn. But you wouldn't have the opportunity or the exposure to be an assistant principal if you weren't in that role. So I really tackle those negative thoughts, because I think that's what really holds us back. And imposter syndrome is nothing more than a lie. Because if you're there, then that means you deserve to be there. So I really encourage people, and we walk through that. We talk about what happened in your past, your childhood. Now, let me tell you, I tell people all the time, I'm not a counselor. So what I tell people too is, hey, listen, when we get to some stuff that's real deep, one of the strategies that I recommend is get you a therapist. So, because some of that imposter stuff is deep rooted in trauma and pain. And as we start to uncover some things that are really deep, that are wounds that people haven't healed from childhood. And it's walked with you and you've carried those burdens into adulthood. So before you can even walk into your purpose and your season, you got to deal with that stuff. So I challenge women on that. Hey, let's talk through that stuff and let's get you some help so that you no longer are carrying that weight, in addition to all the other negative things that you're experiencing.
Yeah, and it was so awesome just to hear you when you look inside of bringing the word in like you just did, right? And so you got to understand that if you ever been to church before, like that's those thoughts, and that's what it's for. Like that's the job.
And a lot of times we hear what we're not more than what we are. Think about it. You can hear we look at ourselves in the mirror. I'm too big. I'm this. We can find. I could ask you right now 20 things wrong with you, and you can name them. But if I were to ask you 20 things right about you, you'd be like, by 12, you'll be like, And I was listening to this coach, and she said one of the things she challenged us to do is to write 77 things that are good about us. 77? Yeah. Try it. Try to write 77 things about you that are good. That's hard to do because we don't focus on the good in ourselves. We focus on the things that we don't do well, or the things, we talk about that's why I like Strength Finders, the book Strength Finders, because it talks about instead of working on your weaknesses, leverage your strengths. Because it's easy to say what I'm not good at, But if I'm really good at this, let me use that as momentum to get to where I want to be. So I tell people, let's work on your strengths. Let's work on the things that we know we can do, because the negative things are going to creep up even in your good stuff. Yeah.
That's a powerful exercise too, though. You
Yeah.
think once you get past those surface,
that's it.
That's 10.
That's
you got to dig after that.
I can name 10 good things that I've done and accomplishments, but after that, it becomes a challenge. But when you start to do it, it's so freeing to realize, man, listen, I am fearfully, wonderfully made. I am the head and not the tail. I am designed for greatness. When you start to, and it's easier because, like, listen, affirmations are great. I think it's great that you speak those things, but if you have not tackled the negative thoughts, it doesn't matter how many times you affirm yourself, the negative is going to still creep in. So you have to know how to change your thoughts and change your mind so that even when you affirm yourself, there's no I am great, but. Yeah,
I love it. So, I love it. And another part of that work is, like you say, working with the leaders. First day toolkit.
Yes.
So when I think about that this year, as assistant principal, I just got the phone with my principal a few minutes ago, and we're just talking about how real it's about to get this year, right? And so, as a school leader and embarking on this journey, without giving away the money?
Yeah.
What are some of the tools you give to leaders to
Let me tell you. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I sat in a boardroom with other people, and it is so amazing how detached leaders are. It is so amazing how you can go to work every day and have no idea what's happening on the floor. So one of the things that I really challenge leaders is to be empathetic, because you weren't always an assistant principal. You weren't always the CEO. Somewhere, maybe at that company, that's how you came in, but you were a worker at some point. So I want people to go back to those days, to the humility in serving. And then I think, now people talk about servant leadership, but I really talk about serving, because we all have a purpose when we go into work. And when we go in there, especially as leaders, we have to model the way. So as leaders, I encourage leaders, hey, listen, you got to get out of your office. You got to spend some time with your staff, and not just your immediate staff that sits on the level with you. You've got to go down into the business, and you can't make decisions without inclusion. So many decisions are made at the head, never considering the janitor, never considering the receptionist, never considering, the frontline workers. So I encourage leaders to do that. The other thing I encourage leaders to do is to listen more than they speak. Because I believe a CEO never has to say I'm CEO. We know that. So you don't have to continue to tout all your experience. I want you to listen, do some tours, find out what people are feeling, because your frontline people are the people who make the business run. Your teachers are who make the business. Yes. And if your teachers are unhappy, what we gonna do? So I really tell leaders to do that. And I also talk about having bold conversations. Like, conversations are easy when you know people, but it's hard to have conversations, especially difficult conversations. So I teach strategies on how to have difficult conversations. I believe delegation's important. I believe coaching is important. So there is so much in that toolkit that I give, and I've created a specific model. So one thing about Speaking of Joy, I created my own stuff. Yeah. So all the models are Speaking of Joy models from nowhere else. And the goal is to give people acronyms and quick ways that you can do exercises. So like, here's one right here. I tell people there's a thing called a bet and a beer. This is free money. Take it with you. Okay. A bet and a beer. A bet is something that you give as a compliment. Okay. Bet. B-E-T. B is for the behavior. E is for the effect. And T is for thank you. That's it. So, hey, Kendrick, I saw that you helped that parent today when she had a question. Let me tell you, because you helped her, her son was able to get enrolled in class and he's now learning. Thank you so much. That's a bet. Quick and easy. It's an affirmation that you could give on the fly immediately. So beer is what I call a redirective action. So beer is behavior, effect, expectation, and then the results. So basically, if it ain't going right, this is what we're going to do. So, hey, Kendrick, I saw that parent had a question for you. I noticed that you didn't really respond in a way that could help her. So going forward, I hope that you will take a moment and listen to the parent so that you will know. Now, unfortunately, if you don't do that, then we'll have to have a different conversation about the strategies that you can use to help the parent. Yeah. Bet and beer.
Thank you.
There you go. And that's quick, because people think that you've got to have feedback when you got to sit in the office and have these long conversations or at a review time. A bet and a beer is something you can throw out really easy and keep walking.
Yes. So, that's what you got to have, because I try to go to a lot of classes. And so, man, getting in and getting out is something you got to do.
So a bet and a beer, that's all you got to do.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm being more intentional about my feedback. So
there you go.
Hey, so now we good. Yes, day and yes, day. So speaking of that, I want to get into the 5 R's, but before we do that, you got to talk to me, because the last time we talked, you was talking about this yes day that we was having.
Listen, okay, so I did a yes day.
Okay.
But nobody called me, so the only people that got yeses all day were my family. So that's the funny thing is, my husband said to me, he said, "You sure been saying yes a lot today." So I'm like, I didn't even intend to do it. I didn't even intend to do it. I just found myself saying, and it was simple things like he wanted to do something. He said, "Will you take the girls to gymnastics?" Yes. The girls wanted to eat McDonald's. Yes. Then they wanted to go to, there's a tea house in Katy. They wanted to go to the tea house. Yes. They wanted to order 2 pots of tea. I knew they weren't going to drink them. Yes. Got home. My husband said he wanted to he loves HEB. Can I go to HEB because I've been with the girls all day. He was like, yes. My mom was over and she said she wanted fish. Yes. So it was just my family, but it made life so easy just to say yes to the people.
Hey, just say yes. And then look at you. You had a full day at the tea house out with the family.
It was, I thought about you. About you. Now, I don't know that yes day is going to be every month for me.
Yeah.
I think we're going to do once a quarter.
That's good. That is
but
good.
I thought about you because I did. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. I just started saying yes. And then I was like, I may as well continue this.
Yeah.
It worked out really well.
And you will surprise yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm my next one I'm gonna put on the calendar so that I can intend, because like I said, this one was just my happenstance. So next time I'm gonna put it on the calendar, and we're gonna pray that I'm not out here skydiving or parasailing.
Man, true.
Yeah.
So as we go through, I want to talk about these 5 R's, and then I want to get back to the lunch break. But first, it's gonna get weary next year. We already we already having this mass debate. We got calls since we coming in.
Yeah.
How can we use now? I know this one kicked it off. So it's like nostalgia coming out. Might take so well. But talk to me about those 5 R's and how can we use them?
I sure will. So the 5 R's came about because truly, I was in a place of I was depleted. Let's be honest. Okay. I had lost my job. Like I said, and let me say this. I had never, ever been unemployed. Never been let go, never been unemployed. So this was the first time that I had ever been in this situation. And so to be in a situation where you lost your job, this was May. So not only had I lost my job, I was also we were all dealing with, the George Floyd and civil unrest. There was a whole pandemic out here. And I was like, God, for real, do you see your people? Because we got our struggling out here. And I was struggling. And I would get up in the morning and pray. And I've never just really said to God in a lot of instances, God, I'm really afraid. And so the morning I got up and started writing the 5 R's, the scripture that came to mind was Galatians 6:9. Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. And so I was meditating on that scripture, and it was really impactful for me because it reminded me that God was still in control. And sometimes when you see things happen around you, good or bad, well, I'll say bad more than anything, we forget that God still has a hand in all of it. And so I tell people all the time, the scripture says all things work together for the good. Some things not going to look good because some is not the all. So many times we look at this instance and say, oh my God, that's bad. But all of it works together. So we focus on that one thing that's bad. But if we look, that one bad thing is a catalyst for so many other things that make all. So that's what I had to be reminded. And honestly, when I lost the job, I had given that job some good work. Mm-hmm. And so to be pushed out, I was angry. I was frustrated. I was so many things. And so I had to just cry out to God, like, for real, God, what are we going to do? Yeah. And so that scripture came to mind. And so he started giving me the 5 R's just as a refresher for myself. So it wasn't ever intended to be nothing but my stuff, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It will be a book in October, but it was supposed to be my stuff. And it was really just me crying out to God. And so God gave me these 5 R's just to help me, right? And so the 5 R's are rest, reflect, replenish, reposition, and resume. Those are the 5 R's. And so anytime you get weary, which is something natural that every one of us experiences. And I used to, and I say in the book, I used to always tell my husband I was tired. Okay, that's easy. I'm tired. And so guess what my husband with his wonderful male mind would say? You should go to sleep at night. Yeah. And what I realized was I wasn't tired physically. I was emotionally tired. I was drained. And that's weariness. When I was at a point of depletion, I couldn't give anything to anybody else. Like I was just at a point, don't come to me for encouragement because I ain't got none. Yeah. You know, if you start telling me your problems, I'm going to tell you, man, we both going to be crying. Like this is not, I don't have anything to give. And so I started writing this. And so what God told me about rest is that there comes a time in our lives where we have to rest. And rest is not going to sleep. Rest is truly clearing your mind, your body, your energy. And you can be in a room full of people and still be rested. There are people who sleep at night every day and wake up still not rested. So rest is a calmness and a stillness, and rest is active. Sleep is unconscious. You're going to go to sleep whether you want to or not. Your body is going to give out. But rest is something conscious. So God showed me I had to rest because I had been given so many things to so many people that I had not taken time for joy. So in my rest, he taught me to reflect. And reflect means, how did you get to the point of weariness? What things did you say yes to you should have said no to? What things did you do that I did not tell you to do? What people did you bring into your life that I did not ordain? So you're pouring out and giving to people who aren't restoring you. So he started really just telling me to reflect on, and then reflect on who I am and what gifts he's given me, because this is the point where I'm trying to figure out what's next. So he's like, I created you for a purpose. I've imparted my word in you. I've imparted my wisdom in you. So reflect on how good I've been to you. And if I haven't I not kept you all this other time? So why would we get to a point now? And as God, I'm going to leave you out here high and dry. So I had to reflect on how he's been and what he's done for me. And then I had to reposition. So now I had to turn from those thoughts, those ways, the things that I'd already done. I was like, okay, God, forgive me. So it was repenting. It was saying I had to let some people go. I had to turn off some television. I had to stop speaking about my situation to unfruitful people. I had to just do some things differently. So that's when I stopped looking for a job, because I repositioned myself. And I was like, God, if we're going to do this together, okay, I'm going to do it with you. Come on, let's go. So I repositioned. So I said, Lord, if this is the work that you have for me, I trust you. So I'm no longer going to seek my own will, but yours. And then I asked him to replenish me. So all the places where I was dry and lacking, I asked him to refill me. So he brought new people into my life. He brought speaking of joy into my life. He brought networks into my life. And he brought his joy back, because I had lost the joy. When you're weary, you don't have God's joy. And I realized that happiness is external and joy is internal. So I had to go back and remember, hey, I have the joy of the Lord. So even if I'm unemployed, I can still have joy. Even if we're in a situation of social unrest, we can still have joy. Even in a pandemic, I can still have joy, because now I have time with my family. So I had to be reminded and restored and replenished. So I had to now fill myself back up. And then there were times when people couldn't fill me up. So I had to fill myself up. Hey, well, Joy, you know, you bad, girl. Girl, you look good today. Girl, you got a haircut. Woo, that haircut is nice. Girl, you got you some new glasses. So I had to start replenishing myself. And when I was replenished, that's when I was able to resume. And that was when I was able to continue. And so what you see now is a person who's gone through those steps and gone through that opportunity. And now I'm resuming, but in a different direction.
Yeah. Wow. broke it down. Some more free. Look,
that's free right there.
Just give. Oh my God. So
yes.
What's next for you? What's next for the business? What's next for the leadership lunch break?
Absolutely.
First off, have you had another guy since I've been through?
I have not. I've invited one other guy. He has not responded.
Okay.
So, I think he's afraid to come on the leadership lunch break.
Hey, well, I still been trying to hold it down. So we gonna keep it going.
Let me say this: you did such a great job. Can't nobody follow you. That's what we gonna say.
Hey, I'm sorry.
There you go.
So what's next for you?
Next? So the leadership lunch break I do every Thursday at noon Central Standard Time, and it's an opportunity to talk about leadership. But I will tell any of your listeners that leadership, I don't believe, is a position or title. If you have influence or responsibility, you are indeed a leader. And so you can lead your home, your community, your family. You can lead in your job. You can lead with your friends. So the lunch break is really designed to address leadership holistically. So we spend a lot of time in the leadership lunch break talking about everything. We talk about leadership takes humility. We've talked about takes accountability. We've talked about courage and fear. So it's really in totality tackling all the things that make us people, because really leaders are people. We put leaders on pedestals, but they're nothing but people who probably have fears, who probably have been promoted without proper training. Let's call it what it is. Who probably have imposter syndrome themselves. So the leadership lunch break is designed to really share those opportunities. So it's every Thursday at noon. So this Thursday, I'll be talking about, so I have guests. Kendrick was a guest, but this week I'll be talking about balance. So I've done a lot of articles that I've been sending out to my subscribers on balance. And so tomorrow I'm going to give some more free tools away on strategies that I use for balance. So that's what we'll talk about tomorrow. And then the leadership lunch break, July 20th, will be a podcast. Thank you.
Come on, man. Hey, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Kendrick. July 20th, the leadership lunch break will be a podcast. I said thank you, Kendrick, everybody, because truly, he was instrumental in making me get off the pot. You know the saying, do that or get off the pot. I had been thinking about a podcast. I was going to change the name. I was going to do so many things. And he was like, why is it just not the leadership lunch break?
Yeah.
And I was like, ding, 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 ding. So I got my voiceover, got my intro done. So July 20th, the leadership lunch break is going live. What else is happening for Speaking of Joy? I, like Kendrick, will be doing the TEDx A-Leaf Studio.
Yeah.
So I will be doing that in August, September. I'll be doing it in September. My From Weary to Winning book will come out in October.
Come on now.
I am still coaching. I am still doing workshops. And so this year we're going to finish out strong with Speaking of Joy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And now before you get out of here, I cannot let you slide without just dropping one more line of knowledge on our ladies out here.
Okay.
And when I think about like I say, the beginning of the story, you were at a point where you could have took that focus inward. And there would be no Speaking of Joy, but you chose to go out. So for the ladies who at that crossroad right now, what do you say to them?
I always tell people that you have an absolute purpose. God created you for his glory, but it's also to impact and influence the people that are around you. If you have spent your life doing the same thing, and when you leave your legacy, you have not changed your area, then you've not done the work that God has called you to do. He told us to go make disciples. And I don't think it was all about Christianity. I think it's about sharing love and peace and joy. So I tell women all the time, there are people who are waiting on you, period. And their lives will be better because of you. So when you know that and you walk in that authority, then you look for opportunities to minister, and you don't have to have a preacher title to minister or to impart wisdom. All of us have been through stuff, but you didn't go through it only for you to say, man, look what I did. It's so that you can share those stories to empower other people, because there are people who are walking the exact same journey you're walking, and they're waiting and they're ready to quit. They're ready to walk away. They're ready to give up. And there's going to be a word that you say that's going to truly change their lives. So the power that you have to change the lives is basically your story. So even when you're going through your issues, remember, your issues are not only for you. They're so that you, and God's going to bring you out triumphant. That's his word. He's going to bring you out triumphant. And when you come out triumphant, it's not just for you. It's for you to say, listen, I remember when I was unemployed and look what God has done for me. I remember when I was in a trauma situation. I remember when these things happened to me and look, I've overcome. And so because I have overcome, you can overcome because we're overcome by the power of our testimony. So there are people waiting on you. And all you've got to do is have the courage to tell your story, nobody else's story, but your story. And when you tell that story, you will literally see chains be broken and people's lives be changed.
Man, that's it. I think that was nothing else needed right there.
Well,
thank you for that. So give us that contact information. How do we find you? Get the classes, get the coaching.
Absolutely. I am on Speaking of Joy everywhere you can find me. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. It's Speaking of Joye. So Speaking of Joy. You can also visit my website at www.speakingofjoy.com. You can find all of my information there. You can book me there. I do 30-minute sessions with people all the time. Just if you have questions, I'm all about helping you be your best self. So if you've got, hey, I want to work with you, or hey, I just want to find out more about you, definitely hit me up. My email is info@speakingofjoy.com. So as long as you type in Speaking of Joy, and I hate to say it like this because Nene Leak said this, but it's facts. Google me, but I don't mean it in that way. But you can Google Speaking of Joy and you'll find all of my information there as well.
Man, that is awesome. Thank you again today.
Thank you so much, Kendrick. I appreciate this.
Yeah, awesome work. So I'll be looking to see what's happening next. Yes. Seeing how we can get up on this leadership work here.
Absolutely.
For a conference or something.
Absolutely. Let me know. I am more than willing. I have so many resources, and I tell people I can facilitate training for you, or I can create it and give it to you, and you do it yourself. But whatever. Right now, I'm doing a lot of diversity training because, of course, we need some help in that area. So the last few companies that I've been working with have done some diversity training. We've got some real cool diversity stuff. So So hey, everybody, reach out. I can share my resources with you, and we can make some things happen.
There it is. Thank you, Miss Carlotta.
That's my mama.
Right. Hey. Hey. All right. Well, that will do it for us. I want to say thank you again. Thank you to the audience. Welcome again to the season 6 premiere of Wellness Wednesday on KTTV.com. We'll be back next week and hitting them. All right. That'll do it. This is KT for KTTV signing out. 100.
Have a good one.
This is Darnell. This is Darnell with Broadcast Houston.
This is Dr. Tamara Beckford.
Hey, this is Candace.
This is London Underwood. This is Kirsten Bass with Inner City Greens, and you're watching.
Y'all are now tuned in to
KTTV.
KTTV.
KT.